Yeah. Salute. Hey, check this out. You got M.E. Drip. So look, I came to talk to y'all about something else where I just thought about. So I know people been asking me and shooting me messages and stuff like that, talk about not talking about and asking about too. Is it hard to get a job in Japan? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Yes, it is. So it is hard for an American and other foreigners to get a job in Japan. I'm gonna tell you why. It's really like 6 to 7 main reasons. One of them is the language barrier, right? A lot of people in Japan they speak Japanese. Now, English is starting to become on the rise there as far as them learning and investing in stuff because they know it's a lot of tourists that comes here. They want to build relationships with them and connect with them. Uh, the workforce know people are it's in their best interest because some of their grandkids and stuff like that was married to an American and now they come into the workforce and they highly qualified, but they speak, only they speak both languages and stuff like that. So English is becoming on the rise for various different reasons, but it still ain't to the level yet where Japan is gonna just adjust 100% to the English language. No, they will not. I don't think they would never new adjust to the English language because they are a very traditional country. So they gonna still rock with the Japanese language. But what I will say is like it ain't pressed enough yet. As far as it's basically on the rise. It ain't to the point where it's gonna move the needle as far as incorporating it more into Japanese education as of right now. But in the future, hey, who knows? But I'm gonna tell you why language barrier is so different, or why language barrier is very hard for both sides, right? So if you're an American or an African or Mexican or Slovian or Iranian, from various different parts of the world, and you try to come into their workforce and they don't speak Japanese, you're gonna have a tough time. That's one reason why they won't hire you into their workforce because they know y'all don't speak the language. And then two, our accents to them is different from their accents. So to us, or to them, it's like we speaking gibberish, and then to us, it's like they speaking gibberish. So it's gonna be hard to understand. And then when you on the job and they try to speak to you in Japanese and stuff like that, or they will try to speak in English, but for the most part, they speak in Japanese. You can't always go to your phone and try to pull out Google Translate and then type it in your words or speak to the phone and hold it up to their face and all that. The Japanese people looking at it like, nah, like when we at work, we ain't really got time. Everything happens impulse. We ain't got time to be trying to get 3, 4, 5 people to come help us break down what I'm trying to tell you and stuff like that. Nah, they not gonna do that. Now they do got AI now out now with the Time Kettle earbuds that do help. I don't have them with me right now, but y'all can go look them up, timekettle.com. And they got earbuds where you can put it in your ear and y'all could cross reference languages and stuff like that. But still, they rather not invest in none of that. They just be like, no, I'd rather just hire a Japanese person and just keep them incorporated here. Things can run a lot smoother and we ain't got to worry about the language barrier and work culture, right? So they rather bring somebody in new, right? Even if they are new, they probably got aunties, grandmas, mom and dad, older cousins that has been in the workforce and they have understanding of the culture and they can be able to relate the information to them and they could be able to understand it and transition into the workforce. I'm talking about the Japanese people. They could transition to the workforce a lot easier than somebody who's not of their culture can, right? So another thing is with the whole culture, right? It's certain practices that they probably do in the culture that you won't be able to relate to. You can adapt if they take the chance on you, right? But you won't be able to relate to. So like, I'm gonna give you several of them, right? When they walk through in the morning, a lot of them sometimes they like to stand up like this and bow and say Ohayo gozaimasu, konnichiwa. They believe in always, smiling at their customers regardless of the situation. Some I mean not restaurants, but some businesses, corporations, you gotta take your shoes off when you come in there. Um, and they got small other things too that they have in their work culture as well that's very different, whether it's good or bad. But once you get there, you're not gonna be able to relate to it. It's gonna take you for it's a whole culture shock thing that you gotta go through because how they operate is totally different. You may be an aggressive one. They not really aggressive. They more so on the conservative side of things, quiet and stuff like that. Uh, they probably don't talk to each other at work, nor do they hang out. But in some other corporations, you may do that, right? So it's just completely different. So that's another reason why they ain't finna hire somebody too quick because they already built a culture anyway. And they're firm believers in traditions, and bringing somebody who's not a part of their tradition with a whole totally different tradition, it'll disrupt their tradition. And a lot of times they ain't gonna want their tradition disrupted. And another thing, visa requirements, right? Because you have to have a visa to come overseas in Japan. They got several different visas. You know, you got your business visa, your tourist visa, your work visa, your school visa, your religious visa. Uh, and then they got another visa, but I think it's educational or spiritual visa. But I'm not too for sure about that one. But I'm gonna tell you this: they only look for give you a work visa, and you got a lot of roadblocks with that. So you may have it, and this one is they say on the embassy side, right? If the employer is willing to hire the American employee, and they go to the embassy and say, "Hey, we want to do their visa," especially if they're a Japanese employer, one of the kickbacks that the embassy is gonna give them because they're gonna be like, "Hey, it's plenty of people out here. You can't hire one of your own first before. Why do you?" Because he or she gotta go through their red tape of explaining why they gotta hire an American rather than one of their own out here who's probably job searching. So the employer probably ain't gonna want to deal with that. And the other side to it is you yourself when it comes to the visa, right? They do a lot of red tape. You gotta have X amount of money before you come out here for certain visas. But I think for the work visa, you at least gotta have you some money to come out here. Like, all of them ain't finna it ain't like the government on base. They not finna just pay for you to just come out here. So you gotta be able to provide your own way. You gotta do a lot of paperwork. Um, and they ask a lot of questions and stuff like that. You gotta go through a strenuous interview process. And the other thing to it is, as far as the employer side, right? I think he gotta pay a fee, or they gotta pay like fee or taxes or something, for you as an employee. And sometimes the employer looking at it like this is risky because he may affect my culture. And then another thing to it is that we don't know if he or she that come out here they gonna stay. They probably just you again. They may think you trying to use them for a visa, especially if you don't have a relationship with them to begin with, right? And the other thing to this visa is when you do the visa. Hold on, I'm trying to think. When you do the visa, is once you do get your visa, and this may turn a lot of other cultures off, um, especially the ones who have a higher currency rate, right? So if you come to Japan and they put you on a visa, they gonna pay you in yen. They're not gonna pay you in your country dollar, right? And this could be a double-edged sword. It could be good or it could be bad. But uh, the Americans and I think maybe Chinese, and maybe Africa is a few other dollars or not dollars, but a few other currencies, banknotes, federal notes that are higher than Japan. And if they was to pay you in those federal notes and you convert it over to Japanese yen, you're gonna have a lot more money, right? But the corporations, they money is circulated in yen. So once you come there, you're gonna get paid in yen. So I know some of y'all used to probably getting paid in some of y'all other currency rates, but you gotta adjust to their currency rate. And sometimes y'all may look at it like y'all taking a loss for some cultures. But it's not really a loss because one, you want to come out here anyway. There's kind of a trade off. You do it's just a trade off. And then two, it don't the cost of living in Japan is way different, but that's a whole nother video I can talk about some other time. But that's another reason. The visa process is very, very strenuous. And then the currency right here is different too. And these go hand in hand. The industries and the job force is just like any other. I don't want to say any other, but they kind of similar to any other job force in the world. They all competitive, and certain jobs require you to have X, Y, Z. And then too, you gotta think about you got another culture working against you, right? Because they already got their own people that they can hire before they think about bringing on somebody who's not a part of the culture coming in to their place. Now, is Japan racist? No, it's not saying that they racist, but it's they looking at it like, why would we bring somebody else in and we got plenty of people here we could be taking care of? Because you gotta think about it this way: for every other culture you bring in, somebody else is losing out on their job. And if somebody else ain't got no job, then it means it's a chance of potential homelessness and stuff like that. And that's one thing Japan does really well is preventing a lot of homelessness. So that's why it's very competitive and they very tight on who they bring into their workforce is to prevent any of that other stuff is happening. So they go have their certifications and degree requirements and stuff like that, just like any other place. But the main thing is when it comes to it, they just very selective. So if you want to work out in Japan, it takes work. None of it's easy, nor is it hard, right? But it's just knowing the requirements and putting in the work to match up the requirements. So, right, they reason to say no is gonna submit to your reason to say yes. That's the main focus of where your mindset should be at. And some jobs are probably easier to get gas stations and stuff like that. But just remember, it's gonna be competitive. So I don't think just because you're an American, right, they finna just move for you. Now maybe if you have a business, a thriving business stateside, you come out here, it may be a little bit more easy because they want the economy boosted. And they know if you bring your dollars from wherever you from, especially if it's one of the higher currencies, and you put it into their economy, it's gonna benefit them even more. But if you ain't got no business or you're not interested in business and stuff like that, and you going into the workforce, it's just gonna be just this competitive. You thinking about going into the workforce in Japan, your best bet is to first off research the job market, go online to different Google, do your research, go online to different job websites, and start looking for the general requirements and stuff like that, and start matching your resume up with that. That's play number one. And then play number two is you go and build your connections and network with people that are a part of the culture. Now, I know some of y'all I do recommend flying out here for probably 30, 60, 90 days at a time and then building that way. But if you can't, there's probably Japanese cultures in other parts of the world that you could connect with and build relationships with the Chamber of Commerce. You can go to your intern nations. You can go to your embassy and just look up guerrilla marketing, ways to build relationships with people, and then just start building relationships with those Japanese people. And again, they probably know people who back at home and stuff like that, and they can start getting you put in position to come on over to Japan. So that's your best bet, getting involved in to their community. If you can't fly out here, if you can fly out here, great. But just be intentional. Go to some of the job expo events, business events, and stuff like that, and just connect and build with the people, and then you be in best position to get in the job. Again, more of the story: network, build your connections with the folks, and then do your market research and start maxing your resume up with the general requirements for the job. What I mean by maxing your resume is making sure it aligns with what you're trying to get for. And if it don't align, then you need to be investing either your money and time to make sure you got them certifications or schooling or whatever the case may be to make sure you can get the skills required to match up with that job. And if you do that, your chances are of coming out to Japan and working in the workforce is gonna skyrocket. Hey, but look, that's all I got. Again, that's another conversation with Drip, just a different perspective on different things. I got more of this, so if y'all want more of this, come hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hey, till then, till next time, tap in, lock in, stay in, tune in. Yeah, salute, Drip.